discussed that minimum knowledge of JavaScript is required for Angular. Otherwise, nobody will entertain you as an Angular developer in companies. You can learn Angular, but you will not fit as an Angular developer. So minimum JavaScript knowledge is mandatory. So for learning at now, so it will save a lot of time if you know JavaScript actually, because people who know JavaScript and come to learn Angular, we don't need to even spend these many days to make you understand about different data types and operators and statements actually. They generally know about all these. Only few changes we need to discuss. Anyhow, we discussed all these important basics. Now we are going to discuss another important is OOP concepts, right? Object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming in TypeScript. So in TypeScript, we are going to learn about OOP concepts. So technically, so the programming systems actually. So technically, computer programming systems are classified, computer programming systems which are commonly used in real world application development, are classified. So are classified into so three major types. Computer programming systems which are commonly used in real world application development are classified into three major types actually. So we have POPS, we have OBPS, and we have OOPS. These three. These are the three major programming systems. Actually, POPS, that is process-oriented programming system. Process-oriented programming system. One of the specialty of POPS, process-oriented programming system, is it supports low-level features. It can directly interact with hardware services. So it uses very less memory, and it is faster. These are all the advantages of process-oriented programming system. Technically, if you know computer programming, generally you may be aware of these programming systems, and several more approaches are also there. Initially, process-oriented programming system, it supports low-level features. It can directly interact with hardware services. It uses very less memory, and it is very faster because it can directly interact with hardware, so it is faster, and it needs very less memory to operate. It can run on a device which have very less memory also. So that is POPS. And example for this POPS, we have C, Pascal, COBOL, So all this comes under the category of POPS, process-oriented programming systems. What are the drawbacks of these process-oriented programming systems? Code reusability. Code reusability and separation issues. Separation issues are there. Code reusability and separation issues. Extensibility issues are there. So no dynamic memory allocations. Dynamic memory allocation issues are there. So the main problem with these type of programming systems, reusability concerns, separation concerns, extensibility issues, easily not extendable. So no dynamic memory allocations. All these comes under the problems of POPS, process-oriented programming system. Then we have OBPS, object-based programming system. OBPS is a object-based programming system. Actually, object-based programming system supports code reusability. It supports code reusability. It supports dynamic memory allocations. So it supports code reusability. It supports dynamic memory allocations. So separation concerns. So supports code separation. So these are the advantages of OBPS, object-based programming system. Example, so we have a Visual Basic VB, and we have JavaScript. Earlier when introduced, it was OBPS. Actually, JavaScript now supports OOPS. Earlier, it doesn't support all the features of OOPS. So what are the issues in this OBPS, object-based programming system? The main problem is in object-based programming system. So here, extensibility issues are there. And important is it will not support dynamic polymorphism. And it will not support inheritance. So no inheritance. That means only few features are supported. It will not support all. That's the reason even today when we talk about JavaScript, we will say that JavaScript supports object-oriented features, but it is not object-oriented programming. JavaScript is not object-oriented programming. It supports object-oriented programming. That means few features of object-oriented programming are supported, but it is not a completely object-oriented programming. Now, many people have a little bit argument like, so I have seen people saying JavaScript OOP topics. But the important is what you have saw, that is okay. Why? Because you might have seen online so many places like JavaScript object-oriented topics. So that's everyone says. Even I am saying that JavaScript supports OOP